Hello, 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 and welcome. My name is Sabrina Victoria. I am here with Ari. We are going to be talking all about business and the doubts that we sometimes have around that. So get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and the challenges faced by women worldwide, offering insights and inspiration to fuel not only your personal, but also your professional growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Hello, if you're listening live, welcome. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments later. We are here every day delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women on this podcast, and we are adding another one to the list today. We have Ari. Her biggest mission is to leave a legacy of potential and inspiration to the world. She has many great accomplishments as an international retreat leader, speaker, and best-selling author. She now gets to help other conscious entrepreneurs and business owners do the same through their expansion and their reach. Welcome, lady.
Gracias. Thank you. So nice to be here.
Yes, girl. I'm so excited for this conversation. I think this is one of the biggest issues when it comes to women in business. And I do believe that there are more women now than ever before leaving corporate and jumping into business ownership.
Absolutely. Like it's almost like doubled in the last 20 years. And like a big part of that was in the last like 5, I think COVID, all that pushed people into being like, life is too short. I want to do what I want.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of them are leaving corporate, right? They're like, oh, this is so toxic. And they're leaving and they're all excited and they're full of power and they're full of confidence. And then somewhere between like day 1 of entrepreneurship and day 365, there's some doubts that start to creep in.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about unlearning.
Yeah. So we have a lot of programs that we've developed throughout our lives, from birth, from things that, we've acquired. I really look at this as like the core us, right? The who we are, the patterns, the beliefs that have been, taught or implanted onto us. And some of those do not serve us. I know I have a lot of stuff that I've had to unlearn: relationship with money, relationship to self, relationship, self-worth stuff. And that unlearning process almost creates like this massive opportunity to then be like, well, what the heck do I fill this up with? Like, I got rid of this. Now there's a gap. What part of the self do I need to, right? Like refill? Is it more tactical? Is it more strategic? Is it more heart space? Is it more intuitive? Like, where do we start seeing those? Like, I call them opportunities, really, right? But unlearning is a whole kit and caboodle all on its own, because it starts bringing up pain. It starts bringing up doubt. Well, am I not good enough? Is this right for me? Am I going to make it when there's like 1,000 other coaches out there and 1,000 other, restaurant owners and what happens, right, is that we almost like become small within ourselves, within our potential. Like, our potential gets shrunk. I imagine like shrink wrap, like, so that's a big part of entrepreneurship is grit. Is grit, and like being like, I cuss too, like, what the fuck, no one told me I was going to feel this way, because it's a lot of feeling, entrepreneurship, like there's the one day you're like ecstatic because you closed a really good deal, and then there's like crickets and you're like, suck, nobody wants to work with me. And then you start doubting, am I really cut out for this? Should I get a job?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to unlearning our doubts, when I think of doubts, I think of like mindset. I think of like what you're talking about, where you say, we have programs that have been embedded in us since we were toddlers.
Yeah.
So how like, what are the first steps? We have a ton of people listening live right now. I know that a lot of people are dealing with this, whether they're in corporate or an entrepreneur, where we have doubts about ourselves. We're dealing with low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, all these words that we've created around this. What's the first step? I mean, what's the how do we get the ball rolling to start to unravel some of this?
For me, it's like sitting down and doing an assessment. Like, assess yourself. Like, where are you standing right now? It's not where was I 10 years ago, 3 weeks ago, where do I want to be? It's like, where am I right now? How do I feel? What are my resources that I have? What are the skill sets? What are the, like, just like paint your real picture, not like an edited picture of like, oh, I have that resource. No, I'm not there yet. Like, just honest truth, not perception, because that's really different, right? Like, I know I edit myself all the time, and some of us here might do it as well. And I'll say I have zero corporate experience. I've had my own business or been a freelancer since I graduated university. So I can't talk about like having a boss per se, just short spurts in my life. I've had bosses. So I definitely know when there's a moment where you're just like, okay, what am I doing? Right? Like, what is happening right now? Okay, I have this service, I have this experience, I have this connection. What can I do with that right now? And the minute you do that, like, there's a lot of clarity, because like, it's like the emotional connects with the logical, and the logical says like, hey, like, I know you're dealing with all these words, right? Because I love how you said that. And like, look what you have. Like, I did that with a client yesterday. She was like, I feel like I'm in the same place I was a year ago. And I was like, but remember what you did a year ago. You launched a mentorship program and you got like $3,000 worth of clients that same week. And she was like, oh my God, you're so right. I forgot about that. And I was like, of course you forgot about that, because we forget about our moments of wins, of successes. And we focus on all the like itty bitty shitty committee that like likes to talk to us.
Yeah.
So like, assess, where are you standing on? Not, don't make up a bunch of like things that don't exist, because that's your emotion, that's your fear, that's your doubt, that's like all that like heaviness talking. And we're programmed for that, right? Like, we're programmed to be safe, which is fine. Like, we don't want, the big hairy tiger like eating us outside the window. And like, you are safe. You're in a good place. Now, there's moments where you feel like, oh, this ground underneath me is a little shaky. And this is where like, sometimes like, we have to have more hustle. We need to have more grit. We need to do things that are a little bit scary. Like, I have traumas. I started working when I was 13 for my dad. We're Peruvian, and my dad doesn't speak very good English. So he would have me call vendors, like cold call vendors, and get quotes for like machinery. We had an import-export business at 13. And I was like, I'm an introvert. And I would be like, oh my God. So like, to me, like, not cold calling, but like even like DMing people and being like, hey, I have this really cool thing coming up. Are you interested? Like, right? Like, that like past trauma or past like fear creeps up. But like, man, if I got to make some sales and I have to like voice note people, like, yo, go do that, because no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that is one of the biggest issues in the world of female entrepreneurship. Sorry, I'm always learning, so I have to take notes.
Yeah.
You're saying so much brilliance here. I can't let it go by. So, we have a tendency of shying away from sales. We don't know, not necessarily, it's mixed. It's like the doubt of whether or not what we're selling is actually worthy of being sold, number one. Yeah. And then number two, not wanting to come across so aggressive, so masculine, and believing that. How have you really started to overcome that feeling of, or I guess, recognizing the importance, right? Like you just said that you're launching right now. How have you really stepped into your power of recognizing how important the information that you have is, where people need it?
Let me go back to when I was 4, and this is going to be silly, but when I was 4, we went like with my family and other families to a carnival, right? And all the big kids, because I was one of the smaller ones, were like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the roller coaster," and all the other little kids were like, "No, mommy," and I was like, "I'm going." I feel like I have this kind of like I wanted to be a race car driver when I was 5. I have this like insane drive that I don't want to say it's natural to me, but it might be. So I have that, but I've had to surpass the fear of rejection, because that's also huge for me. Like I'm a straight A student, cum laude, like all those things. And so like, I'm like, ooh, what are people going to think of me? Like, what if I fail? Like I have that very strong self-imposed pressure. So in between drive and pressure, there's moments where I also say like, what is failure? Like, what is failure? Is it not doing the scary thing? Is it not, checking off your list of this was successful? So I almost give myself a non-negotiable. And if it's not doing the thing, right, that I feel like I need to do, then I'm like letting myself down. And I have a 4-year-old. And so I'm, this is a new aspect of me, 4 years being into mom. But I'm also like, what kind of like a model am I leaving if I don't do the things that are boring, difficult, just plain out like gross, like sometimes like I'm like, oh, sales is so gross. And then I'm also like, whatever people think of this like masculine, feminine, like now that I'm a mom, like I'm a freaking mama bear. Like if I need to like punch somebody in the face because they're like, being whatever, I'll probably do that. And so this whole role of like sales is so masculine, I'm like, yo, sales is where like mama bear comes out, because I need to provide for my family. Like think about lioness. She's the one that hunts.
Yeah.
The freaking male lion is there, like just like having sex and making like little lion babies, and the chicks are the ones that are going out and like feeding their families. So I'm just like, who am I? Like, who do I need to be in this scenario? Because I want to provide for my kid. I want to give her the world. I want to give myself the world too. Like I like to live nice, I like to travel. I like to do all these things. So like those are my non-negotiables. And if I need to, be a little bit more like sassy on a sales call, or if I gotta like show up on social media 75 times when like I didn't sleep well, like I'm gonna do it.
Do whatever it takes.
Do whatever it takes. Business. No one's out there like growing your business.
That's what I always say. Yeah, no one's doing it. One of the things I talk about a lot is sometimes we shy away from talking about ourselves, talking about how great we are, how good we are, our programs, how amazing they are. And I always say that we as business owners have to brag about ourselves until other people start bragging about us. That's
And
part of the job.
and even look at like Spanx, like Sarah Blakely. Like she's one of my all-timers. She's amazing. I got a chance to actually sleep at her house. I used to work in photography and we did a shoot. So she's like an amazing human being in general. And she's still out there being visible, speaking, right? Like mentoring other women, like really being this, like her business is doing great. It's $1 billion business. And she's not just like,
Yeah.
she's still like doing the work.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we ever get to that point, especially when we're so passionate about what we do.
Yeah. That's the key.
Right? Like I will never stop loving helping other people. Like I've been a yoga teacher for 20 years. Like I don't think I'm ever going to stop loving helping other people. Now, the way that shows up in the business, right? We were talking about that is going to be a little different because the business model might change. Maybe I won't be like coaching so actively and selling more product, right? Maybe I'll be more of a speaker and sell merchandise. Like who knows, right? What the business model is going to look like, but that's where we have options. That's what I love to teach. Like you don't have to fit in a box.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a successful yoga teacher, you don't need to teach 1,000 classes a week. You can build an industry-based business. If you want to be a successful service provider, you can do it in many different ways. So it just, we have to be like in alignment. That's like the second thing, right? First, we need to assess, then we need to align. Like who are we being within our business? Are we playing in our zone of strength and joy, or are we like feeling friction every single step of the way? That's where you're going to fail, because then you're really going to be like unmotivated. And then like you keep doubting yourself. Why isn't this working? Well, dude, because you're not really like operating in your zone of genius.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. I love what you're talking about as far as we have options. I think so many times individuals forget that. I was actually just talking about that on a podcast yesterday. And how I believe a lot of people have fear around commitment, not only in relationships, but also in business.
Yeah.
So they don't leave corporate because they're like, they think of this thing that they're passionate about. And they're like, I don't know if I want to do that thing for the rest of my life. And what you're talking about here is, listen, go do the thing, but you have options. You can pivot, you can change, you can refocus. You openly said here, like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, but I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. I don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years. And I think just having that realization for ourselves in the back of our minds to give ourselves the option, like you said, to not have to be so boxed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that was one of my biggest lessons. I had, like I said, been a business owner forever. I owned a very, successful yoga studio. For those of us in Miami, I co-owned the first yoga studio in Wynwood. And I remember being burnt out and like hating the business. I loved certain parts of it, but it was more me teaching and more me leading and right. But like the running the business, I'm a creator. I love to create. And for me, like the yoga studio, I felt like the walls were like closing in on me. And I hired my first business coach because I was in a moment of pivoting. And I remember her telling me this, like being like, no wonder you're like high functioning depressed. Like you're not a manager. And I was like, I hate people. Like I didn't, like I don't like to manage people. And like I just started crying. And she was like, yeah, you're not a manager. You're like an idea person. You love starting new projects, like, and you're there having to, deal with the teacher that didn't show up at 8:00 in the morning for the class. And yeah. And I was like, oh, so then that's when I realized that I also have like core non-negotiables. And the minute I realized that, and I did my core values, my number one value was freedom.
Mhm.
I was not free at that business model.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I went online and I was like, boo!
I love that. Yeah, I think freedom is the key to so many individuals, whether you recognize it or not. Some people aren't there yet; they don't really see that, but that's really what it is. It's the freedom to be able to do whatever you want. I was just listening to a TikTok the other day with a guy who runs a multi-million-dollar business of some sort. I don't know what it is. And I guess some of his guy friends were kind of like, hey, when are you going to buy a boat? When are you going to buy that yacht? Like, you have enough money. Like, that's what you got. That's the next step. That's the next
Right.
thing. And he's like, dude, I will never buy that because to me, that doesn't feel free.
Yeah.
Like, I have to do this, the maintenance, the upkeep, the la, la, la. That feels to me, that feels bogged down and heavy versus for somebody else that might feel free because
Yeah.
they can get on it whenever they want. They can launch whenever they want. They don't have to, the other guy was like, I would just rent one. Like, I would just rent one for the
Yeah,
day.
that's
For
what
the
I was
weekend,
gonna say.
whatever
Just
it
go
is.
rent a
That
boat.
feels free. This other guy's like, I don't want to have to wait in line. I don't want to have to reserve it from somebody. So like we have to figure out what our version
Yes.
of freedom.
Yes. And within that freedom, that guy that has that multi-million-dollar company, you bet your butt he's working maybe some 10-hour days. And that might not feel like freedom, right? But he's probably doing stuff he loves. And that is probably freedom. So it's not like, oh, freedom, I'm just gonna like prance around and blah. No, like I work my ass off. But I enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I work all the time, all day, every day. If I'm not with family or friends, I'm working. And I don't even call it work. I call it building a business. Like I'm building my
Yeah.
business, building my empire. But I love it. I don't see it as work at all.
Yeah.
I know you talk a lot about making things happen, creating movement in your world, within your business. And you talk about will, grit, and vision. Will, grit, and vision. I'd love for you to kind of dive into that. How do these three things really help you get things done within your business?
Yeah. And it's funny, like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not creating a movement. And I'm like, wait, stop. I co-own the largest yoga trade show in the United States. Like we're creating a movement. Like, stop. So the will is the desire, which is attached to the vision, right? Those two are probably like very synonymous. They serve different purposes, right? The vision informs a lot of how the business is going to be moving forward. What are the strategies that are going to be implemented? And I like to use this example when what's his name, the Microsoft guy, Bill Gates, right? His whole vision was like, I want a computer on every desk in America. That was his vision. So computers, when he said that, were like this big.
Yeah.
So what had to happen was his design team had to come up with a prototype. His marketing team had to ship, right? So the vision informs a lot of the business.
Okay.
Right? The will is the desire to do the work to make that vision happen. All right? That's your will. I want to do this. I have right? I'm on maybe you're not on a mission, but like it's kind of that essence. Like, I really want this. Because when you really want something, you're going to figure out how to get it. Like, I really want a new car. Great. You're going to save. You're going to, do price shopping. You're going to figure it out because you really want it. So how bad do you want it? And then it's the grit, because you're going to hit a lot of walls. All right. Having your own business, again, means doing things that sometimes you don't want. Like, I don't want to DM people. I don't want to show up on social media. I feel like shit today. I don't want to do admin. I don't want to do my books. I get it. Like, I don't want to do my books. So the first person I hired was a bookkeeper. like it wasn't a lot of money. And I was like, oh, well, I don't have to do that anymore. It feels great. So then you start getting rid of the things that are burdensome. All right, but you need capital for that. This is why I had this amazing coach, Jim Bunch, love him. And I remember him telling me, he was like, Ari, what is the main role of a CEO? And I looked at him, I was like, I have no clue. I just, I just do what I want. I do, like, I don't know this corporate speak. He's like, raising capital and leading, right? CEO has to make sure the company has money so that he can lead, he can delegate, or she, right? Let's not just talk in he, so that things can happen in the business. And I was like, oh my God, fine. I can totally be a CEO, but I had to own that. Like, right. I had to own that. So I had to move out of I work in my business and move into, I own a business and I lead a business. So now we're talking about leadership and decisions and understanding when it's time to, hey, you know what? I need to raise capital and I don't really have like the service or the product out yet. Let's take out a loan so that I can hire the bookkeeper. I can make my first product. Right now, I'm actually launching a activewear line, and we had to take out a bunch of capital to buy our first round of leggings and get samples and do the website and all this stuff, right? Because even though Ari can do websites, I build marketing, right? Like I'm a designer or marketer. Right now, I don't have time to build a new website. So I'm going to pay somebody. So if I want that part of the business to actually launch, CEO brain has to raise capital or self-fund, whatever, right? So I think when we look at ourselves in a different light, we start making those decisions that are going to inform our vision and that are going to make us have the grit to, right, do the scary things when it's that time.
What was the other thing you said? You said a CEO raises capital, gets money. What was this? Did you say leads?
Leads. They're leaders. They have to lead their company. And if you're a company of one, as many of us are, you're still leading by making the decisions. And at some point, your company of one is going to, again, hit that wall where a company of one, even if you outsource, you have to lead that person.
Yeah.
You know, like I outsource all the time and I have to tell the designer, hey, like, this is what I need on this website. This is what I need to happen. Like, you need to make those changes. And that, right, is being direct but it's like, you need to give me what I want.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely something that I had to learn. I was just talking about this on a podcast probably about a month ago, where I remember when I was younger and I used to work for corporate, all of us, like all employees, just talking crap about their bosses, just like, they suck, they don't know how to train, I don't know what I'm doing, nobody's teaching us anything, we're just kind of like trying to figure it out on our own. And I remember thinking to myself, like, if I was ever a manager, if I was ever a supervisor, like, I would make sure that the training, like I would train my people so well. And now that I'm an entrepreneur and I have a team under me, I have a team of 5 under me, it's a different skill.
Yeah.
It's a different skill. No one teaches you how to freaking do it.
Yeah.
And, I find myself totally sucking at delegating correctly so that the individuals working for me are capable of doing what I need them to do at the level of which I'm expecting it to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm having to really check in with myself and really like humble myself to, like, there needs to be more detail. There needs to be more information. There needs to be more back and forth. There needs to be more conversation. There needs to be more checking in.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting looking back now and realizing, like, damn, it's a lot harder than we think it is.
I know. And like, I'm going to say, thank God that we have so many coaches and mentors now as like a business. Because man, let me tell you, it really helps when you ask somebody that's already done it and been successful at it, be like, what is that? Like, what is it that I need? Where am I going? How am I moving? Like, I love my coaches that I've had, and mentors and teachers and guides, because doing it alone, really, like, it's going to take you so much longer. Like, yes, read the book, watch the YouTube video. Like, there's so many resources out there. But it all has to start with that desire. Like, I want to lead. And sometimes leadership can be, a lonely place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been great. We have a ton of people watching live right now. Obviously, we're getting a really good idea of who you are, what you do. I would love for you to talk in detail a little bit about, who should be reaching out to you specifically. Who do you help?
Thank you. So I love working with people in the health and wellness fields. That's my wheelhouse. So service-based businesses, coaches. I've built websites and brands for like plumbers. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love my plumbers, and so I like to say I take you from idea to launch. So whether it's like starting your brand visually, creating your product, services, offers, and then moving into like leveraging your time. So creating online courses, being able to lead webinars, and then high ticket, like leading retreats. I've been leading retreats for over a decade. So you want to help people and you want to monetize your knowledge and expertise. I'm a great source. I have a boutique agency. So we do everything from websites all the way to like running Facebook ads. And then I have my coaching programs, like the Evolve Digital CEO.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And then anyone who's looking to connect with you, to find more information about you, where can people find you on the internet of webs?
So I have a Facebook group called the Conscious Women Entrepreneur. That's a great place. I do a lot of teaching there. And my Instagram is ari.biz.coach. So those are the two places where I hang out the most on socials. If you write me a message, I will answer you. I like that. I like connecting. And honestly, even if it's just to have a question, I'm always like here to, to help you out, at least answer a question without being like, it's going to cost you $500. And then hopefully, you'll be so enamored with me that you'll hire me.
Love it. Very cool. Well, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I took a ton of notes.
Yay.
So I appreciate all the goodness that you shared today, all of the nuggets of information. Any closing thoughts as we start to wrap up here?
If I were to tell myself something 10 years ago, was don't try to figure it out alone. Like, really, really lean on someone. Have your business bestie, like have somebody that is wanting you to win and that's helping you get there faster. And I'm not saying it's me, it could be another, mentor, another coach, another consultant. But this journey of like being a business owner has a lot. It takes a lot out of you. Last week, I wanted to burn my business into the ground. This week, I'm like, we're turning it into $1 million empire, right? So
I get it.
Don't do it alone. Like, I made so many mistakes that cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Right? It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be painful. It can be fun. It can feel a little bit lighter.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that reminder, because I do think that does happen sometimes, where we're having those thoughts and then we let those thoughts become a possible reason for stepping out of our passion, stepping out of our vision. before we wrap up, I do have one question that I was just going to wait till after we were done here because I forgot to ask you in the main part of the podcast.
Okay.
But I think that we should probably add it in here. So we're going back into the podcast for 1 second.
Yeah.
We were talking about will, grit, and vision. Is that the order of which we're supposed to do things?
No.
Or is it all kind of like all together in a
that's kind of like, there's things that are very sequential, right? But like if somebody were to ask me like, do I start my logo and build a website before I launch my product? I'm going to say do them at the same time. Like one is not dependent on the other, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the desire for something is what sparks the vision, is what sparks. So I would say that like if you don't want it, like why are you going to do the vision work and why are you going to have the grit? Like, so I feel like that the will of starting something or growing something is what's going to be the catalyst to everything else. It's like, for me, it's be, create, inspire. That's like my tagline. Like, who am I being? What do I want? What does my life want to look like? What are the qualities that I need to embody so that I can create? What am I creating? What business model? So that, like, am I inspiring others and myself?
Got it.
Yeah.
I like that. Very cool. Awesome. Well, this has been fabulous. I so appreciate you being here, taking the time with us, inspiring us, giving us some wisdom. For those of you that are still here until the very end, we love you that hang out to the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation. There is links in the description below where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way. Ari's information is also in the description below, her website. So make sure you check that out and see what she has going on there. Until next time.